The Elder Scrolls Arena was released in February of 1994 and was Bethesda's first step to making the world of Tamriel. It contains the roots of many different features and mechanics that we've all come to love in the later games. With that being said, it also does some things differently to its successors, following the more traditional RPG route. While it certainly has some age to it, Arena can still house a fun and enjoyable environment for the fantasy adventure fan. In today's video, I wanted to go through the Elder Scrolls Arena's main questline. I wanted to experience Jagar Tharn's betrayal and the retrieval of the Staff of Chaos. While there are only 10 quests in the storyline, I've recorded over 7 hours for the first few alone. So even though this video isn't that lengthy, just know that it's put me through the fire. I'll be giving a narrative on the story as well as the dungeon crawls, describing some of my trials and tribulations, while also listening to the dialogue and cutscenes. Without further ado, let's hop into the world of Arena. Booting up the game, you're presented with a slide of scrolls that help shed some light on the lore. They explain how Tiber Septim went on a conquest to unite the continent, how Tamriel, Dawn's Beauty, isn't a name that the citizens use anymore. The continent's fallen on hard times, and as such, the land is referred to as the Arena. Fast forward 492 years, it's Emperor Uriel Septim VII's 43rd birthday, and it's said that jealous hearts desire the throne. After selecting Start New Game, more scrolls are shown to the player. Uriel and the Imperial Guard leader, Talon, have been summoned by the Imperial Battle Mage, Jagar Tharn. Tharn wishes to discuss possible treachery within the Empire. That's when the jealous Battle Mage reveals his true hand and betrays the two men, transporting them to a different dimension. Tharn is then able to take the throne for himself. The only other party to know of this treachery is Rhea Silmain, Jagar's apprentice. However, she's quickly captured. Tharn then uses magic to impersonate Uriel Septim and to turn his wicked servants into the Emperor's Guard. Now it's on to the character creation portion of the game. While it's not necessarily an important element to the story, I wanted to briefly go over the type of character that I was playing as. After doing a trial run, I discovered that magic wasn't going to be very easy for me to use. Especially at lower levels, magicka runs out quickly and it could be tricky to regenerate the bar mid-dungeon. So I decided to go with a simple vanilla warrior, hide behind a skin of steel while slashing away with a long heavy weapon. As for my character's race, I picked the tried and true Nords of Skyrim. Thinking my attributes and the bonus points could be a bit better, I hit a reroll and ended up being successful with it. Sure, there were some sacrifices, but I brought my strength and endurance up to level 75 and 74 respectively. Digging the terrified Terminator T-800 character model, I was ready to step foot inside of Tamriel.
Do not fear, for it is I, Rhea Silmain. Listen to me, there are no others left to carry on this fight. You have been left in this cell to die. Jagar Tharn, Imperial Battle, Mage of Tamriel, has taken on the guise of the true Emperor. He does not see you as a threat, being only a minor part of the Imperial Court. In that act of arrogance, he has made his first mistake. Look to the north wall of the cell. You will find a ruby key which will unlock the door. Take it and make your escape. The passages here were once used by Tharn to hide treasures he had stolen from the Emperor's coffer. If you wish, you can gather enough to support yourself away from the Imperial seat. Be careful. There are many creatures which inhabit the sewers now, vile rats and goblins. It is too late for me, for I am already dead. Only my powers as a sorceress keep me between this life and the next. That power, however, is waning. Do not succumb to greed, or you may find these tunnels to be your final resting place as well. I can still work my magic to a certain extent. If you travel west from this cell, then south, you will find a shift gate. It will transport you far enough from the center of the Empire that you should be safe. If you survive these sewers, you will see me again. Remember, Tharn has taken on the guise of the Emperor. No one will gainsay his word for yours. I will come to you again in your dreams, so it is imperative that you rest from time to time. In that way, I will be able to communicate with you and lend my aid. You are entering a dangerous arena, my friend, one in which the players are beings beyond your mortal comprehension. do not envy your role. There is, however, a power within you as yet untapped. Look for me when you have gained experience in the world. You are my last and best hope.
Rhea Silmain acts as the guide and quest giver for the rest of the main storyline. I'll be hearing a lot more from her as the game goes on. Looking around, my character is indeed locked inside of a prison. However, quite conveniently, the ruby key needed to escape my cell is located inside the room with me. While it's a simple escape, finding a key and unlocking the door is practically an introduction to how dungeons work in this game. Only in the future, the key won't be so easily obtainable. Just outside of the gate is one of the aforementioned stashes of loot which Rhea was talking about. She also said that if I'm not careful, this prison system might end up being my final resting place. While it's a small dungeon, there are quite a few nooks and crannies to explore. Many of the chambers hold equipment and riches, yet you'll also likely come across rats and goblins. They can prove to be rather fearsome foes for lower level characters. By dying, I'm revisited by the apparition of Rhea. She says that I failed my quest, Tharn is now free to rule over Tamriel, and the continent will only continue to get more corrupt. Of course though, the only real consequence is reverting back to my last save. Silmain's instructions were to head southwest. By cutting through tunnels that zig south and others that zag west, I found myself running down a long corridor. A message appears saying that I can see the shimmering field of the shift gate, and before I know it, I'm standing at the foot of a mysterious blue portal. Going through it, I've successfully escaped the first dungeon and am now a free man out in Skyrim. From here, I'm free to venture to other cities, explore random local dungeons, or embark on simple side quests. Because I've ascended to level 2, the next part of the quest comes rather easily. Asking around for the nearest inn, the Red Chasm, I stumbled on into the tavern and rented a room for the night. Resting and regenerating my bars, I was revisited by Silmain.
I see you have strengthened your arm and your mind. It is time we began this journey. This is the Staff of Chaos, the one item that can open the door between this world and the dimension to which the Emperor has been banished. Tharn used this item to destroy my corporeal form when I tried to warn the Council. He knew that the Staff of Chaos was nigh indestructible, having been made from the essence of the land itself. But in that he found the key. As the land is split, so did he shatter the staff into 8 perfectly formed pieces. These he scattered across the realm. I have been able to divine the location of the first piece, a place called Fang Lair. It is said that Fang Lair was originally built by the dwarves of Kragan. Legend has it that a great worm drove the dwarves from their home in the Dragon's Teeth and took the lair for itself. I only wish I knew the exact location. Perhaps there are sages or scholars who would know of this place. Somewhere in its dank depths lies the first piece of the Staff of Chaos. I wish you well. I do not think Tharn knows of your escape, but I can do little else in this form. I have tried to obscure your identity with a spell, but I do not know how well it will hide you. Take care, for Tharn may be searching. Go forth with the blessings of the true Emperor, and myself.
Rhea just gave me my objective for what is practically the rest of the game, to find all 8 pieces of the Staff of Chaos. The Elder Scrolls Arena's main quest formula is actually pretty simple. I start by asking the local NPCs if they know where Fang Lair is. Sometimes the locals would either mock me, saying that it's just a place of legend, or they'd throw in a red herring and say that I need to ask a priest from the temple. The priests of Skyrim had nothing to say on the matter though. Eventually, someone tipped me off and said that Fang Lair was in the wilderness of Hammerfell. Popping open the map, I picked a random location and fast traveled over to the city of Dragonstar. Asking for more information there, I was once again bounced around from establishment to establishment, this time checking in with the local inns. With no dice there, I resumed my street patrol until I heard word that Fang Lair is near the city of Rihad. So, packing my bags and traveling over there, I resumed my search until finally I heard some vital information. The Palace of Rihad has apparently deciphered the location of Fang Lair through some ancient scrolls. Making my way into the royal court, I approached Queen Blabamka, and together we had a little chat. In exchange for the location of Fang Lair, Blabamka needs a favor from me. The scroll that holds the location of the dungeon was stolen by Golthog the Dark and his pack of goblins. It was taken over to a place called Stone Keep. The queen asks me to retrieve it in return for knowledge on Fang Lair. With no choice but to accept, I left the palace and stocked up on supplies at the local shops and Guildhall. When ready, I popped open the world map and fast traveled directly over to Stonekeep. Stonekeep serves as an introductory dungeon to the game. It only has one level to it, and most of that level is completely optional to explore. For full transparency, even though I went through this one mostly blind, I was using maps and guides to make it through the following dungeons. Even so, I spent almost an hour in every single one, just trying to figure things out and attempting to defeat the more difficult monsters. Honestly, the most time-consuming part of the dungeon is the navigation portion. You walk 10 steps, get held down by an enemy for 5 to 10 seconds, then continue onwards and repeat the process. It's fun at first, but I'm not gonna lie, it gets pretty numbing by the 5th or so dungeon. By walking south along the main chamber, I encountered mostly rats and goblins. Occasionally, some wolves would pop out and I got butchered a few times by a lone minotaur. Through its design and various pop-up texts, it's revealed that Stonekeep used to be a well-manned and supplied fortress. However, it was lost to goblins some time ago. The southernmost part of the chamber holds a locked door, which is the part that's completely optional for this dungeon. The area that I needed to explore was on the western side. Heading through an unlocked doorway, I was brought to a room that contained 7 more chambers. The northwesternmost room had a hole in its western wall. For quite some time, I had no clue how to get to the other side. However, I eventually learned about long jumping and leapt my way over. Up until now was the easy part of the dungeon. From this point forward, things got pretty tricky. North of my current spot was a horde of skeletons. At lower levels, they weren't super easy to take out. Luckily though, I needed to travel southwest through the body of water, so they were completely avoidable. At its center was an island which contained the Queen's parchment. The catch is that the island was heavily guarded by ghouls. Anytime I tried to pull up to it, or get near it for that matter, a ghoul would be waiting for me and I'd be handed a one-way ticket to Rhea Silmain. This part took me the longest to get past by far. I tried running past the ghouls, but no dice there. I tried standing my ground, but they were simply too powerful. I must have heard these ghouls moan and groan for what felt like half an hour. When I first came across them, I couldn't fathom what kind of creatures they actually were. Hey Gary, could you do your best ghoul impression for us?
A ghoul? Yeah, sure, I got you.
Oh, that was great, Gary, thanks. At this point, I thought the only way to get past them was by leveling up and getting stronger. So I left the dungeon in search of an easier one that I could train at. This was where I ended up stumbling onto a small fortune and treated myself to some health potions. There was an amazing commenter who said that I'd 100% need an ample supply of pots. I didn't think it'd be so soon, but lo and behold, here I am. For the rest of the game, I always made sure to carry upwards of 50 before delving into any dungeon. For now though, trying my luck with only 5, I actually managed to defeat the Island of Ghouls and snag the Queen's parchment. Of course, when the player successfully fetches the quest item, the other half of the fun is leaving the dungeon. It's certainly not as bad as finding your way through the place, but it's still a little sketchy. You never know what kind of monster is going to pop out and send you straight to Aetherius. Interestingly, there's no confrontation between the player and Golthog the Dark. That's something that you'll come to notice as a bit of a pattern, but I'll get into it more later on. Traveling back to Riyadh and presenting the scroll to the Queen, she hopes that Golthog has been vanquished, even though he hasn't, but even so, she expresses her gratitude and marks Fang Lair on my map. Similar to Stonekeep, starting the crawl is as simple as opening the world map and fast traveling over. First, I met with the title card for Fang Lair. It reads, "You stand before the Dragon Gate of Fang Lair, humbled before its majesty. The dwarven hold seems abandoned long ago, its stone walls crackling with age and neglect. Somewhere within its dank depths lies the first piece of the Staff of Chaos." Fang Lair is where the multi-level dungeon is introduced. The Dwemer Hold has 2 levels, and the idea for the first one is that I need to get from the northeastern corner of the map all the way down to the ladder in the southwestern corner. The dark pits existed in the previous 2 dungeons, but the lair is where they become a necessity to use. While I've been attacked in them before, they end up becoming a bit of a safe haven. Most of the monsters were waiting for me in the tunnels above, so down here in the mine shafts, I was able to take a moment, reset, assess my gear, and continue the journey. Most of the enemies fought on this level were skeletons and spiders. Nothing too tricky to handle, but I just had to keep my eye on the health bar at all times. The occasional orc and minotaur would also pop up, and those would be a little trickier to deal with. Even though there isn't much in the way of lore inside of Fang Lair, we know through Rhea Silmain that a great worm drove out the dwarves. Even though it isn't specified, it's probably safe to say that the worm is long gone. After a lot of strenuous navigation, I finally landed on the desired chamber. Heading on in, the game displays a message saying that the nearby cells are housing hungry spiders. At the far end of the chamber is a dark portal. Approaching it, another message is displayed. I'm to answer a riddle correctly in order to receive further passage. If I get it wrong though, the spiders will be released. The riddle goes as follows. If cell 3 holds worthless brass, cell 2 holds the gold key. If cell 1 holds the gold key, cell 3 holds the worthless brass. If cell 2 holds the worthless brass, cell 1 holds the gold key. Knowing all that is said cannot be true, which cell contains the gold key? I'm not gonna lie, I read this riddle over and over, trying to rack my brain around it. It definitely went way over my head. I'm still unsure how the answer is cell 2. I even plugged it into ChatGPT to see if I was missing something, and even AI said try picking cell 1. So maybe that's the telltale sign that it's cell 2. Anyways, at the back of the second cell is a gold key which can be used to progress further into Fang Lair. The second level of the dungeon is a lot more straightforward than the first. It didn't take me very long to get to the central chamber, which contained the first piece of the Staff of Chaos. It's tucked away behind yet another door, which can also only be opened by the correct answer. The riddle goes, what is neither fish nor flesh, feathers nor bone, but still has fingers and thumbs of its own? My initial guess was a statue for some reason, but the correct answer is either glove or gauntlet. Behind the locked door is where I encountered my first hellhound. They're tough creatures and can cast very powerful fire spells. However, getting up in its face, I was able to hack and slash my way past it. Finally, I got my hands on the first staff fragment. A message display saying that it's eagerly awaiting reconnection with the other 7 pieces. Backtracking out of Fang Lair, that wraps up the second quest of the Elder Scrolls Arena's main questline. Returning to Rihad and resting at the inn for the night, I was visited by Rhea once again.
It seems that you are well chosen. I see that you have won the first piece of the staff. That in and of itself is not a simple task. Tharn, it seems, is not as concerned with you as I had thought he would be. Perhaps he thinks you dead or lost in the sewers from which you escaped. That is well, for I have discovered the second piece's location. There was once a great maze built by the Archmagus Shalador to guard what he called Glamour, the elven term for the secret of life. I know not the location of the great maze, which was called the Labyrinthian, but somewhere in its twisted corridors lies the second piece of the Staff of Chaos. Shalador, according to the old text, made his home in the Fortress of Ice. He would not have built the Labyrinthian far from his home. I would search to the north for such a place. I wish you well on your journey.
With that, it's time to rinse and repeat the same process for questing. Silmain gave me a pretty decent clue though. She said that the Labyrinthian could be found in an icy climate. After getting confirmation from an NPC, I packed my bags and fast traveled over to Whiterun in Skyrim. Arriving, it was nighttime and I wanted to wait for the citizens to come out of their homes. So I left the city limits and decided to set up camp. However, that night, I was visited by a stranger in my dreams.
I do not know who you are, but you have made a fatal mistake. Rhea Silmain and her feeble powers are no protection for you. I should have discorporated her when I had the chance. I will not make the same mistake again. I will use the same dream bridge that she uses, sending my minions across time and space. Already they arrive, ones worthy of the attention you deserve. They will relieve you of the burden of the staff piece you now hold. Give it to them, and I will order your death painless and quick. Resist, and I shall see you in such suffering that you will grovel for the sweet release of death.
Contrary to Silmane's words from before, it seems like I'm now on Jaggertharn's radar. He knows that I'm collecting the pieces of the Staff of Chaos, and he's even sent hellhounds after me. Regardless, I have a mission that needs completing. Continuing my search, someone told me to check out the city of Winterhold, as strange things have been happening there. Doing so, I was then directed to the local Mages Guild. Having been burned by the temple and some inns, I was a little skeptical. However, to my delight, upon first contact, the wizard there opened up to me. He introduced himself as Thelen Karn, and knew that I was looking for the Labyrinthian. In exchange for a favor, he agreed to reveal its location. Sound familiar? Thelen explains that recently, a group of knights from the Fortress of Ice attacked a guild caravan. They ended up stealing a tablet that can decipher part of the elderscrolls. Said tablet is needed to complete the map that leads to the Labyrinthian. Therefore, both Karn and I need access to it. Agreeing to help, he marks the Fortress of Ice on my map. I stock up on potions and head out as soon as possible. Gone are the days of singular level dungeons. The Fortress of Ice is similar to Fang Lair in that it has 2 levels and that it's fairly maze-like. Luckily, there really isn't any need to delve into the dark pits and tunnels, at least on the first floor. Most of the enemies here are humans and ice wolves. While the latter can pack a punch with their ranged frost attacks, they themselves don't have that much health. Honestly though, the real problem comes from the ice golems. These giant freaks of nature hit really hard and have lots of health. Several guides suggest rolling in with at least an elven weapon, as anything below that can't hurt them. I personally got my teeth kicked in plenty of times trying to get past these things. My fingers were hovering over the U key, spamming my health potions over and over again. Also worth noting is that upon dying, I'm now visited by Tharn. He taunts me and says that he's going to have my character turn into an undead, which is just peachy. If you know the way around the first level, aka looking at a third-party map, or you've already done it, it doesn't take that long before you can reach the door leading to the second. There are pros and cons to this lower floor. The good side is that it's a little smaller than the first level, so it at least has that going for it. The downside though is that it takes a little more effort to get to the tablet. Introduced to the battle now are wolves and hellhounds. Again, if I successfully close the gap early on, the fights really aren't an issue. At this point too, I resume my travels through the dark pits in the ground. Again, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with them, as they offer a safe haven, but they do muddle up the navigation. Honestly, I wouldn't say there's anything else that's of great importance in the Fortress of Ice. After a lot of bloodshed and wrong turns, I landed on the door that blocked the way to Thelen's coveted tablet. The door hit me with yet another riddle, saying, "I touch your face, I'm in your words, I'm lack of space and beloved of birds. What am I?" My gut instinct was to go with wind, and it actually worked. On the other side, I was met with one final ice golem. Vanquishing it, I got access to treasure as well as the tablet. Exiting the Fortress of Ice, I returned to Winterhold and presented the artifact to Karn. Similar to how things were handled with Queen Bulbamka, Thelen marked the Labyrinthian on my world map. Wasting no time, I geared up and set off. Arriving, I was hit with yet another title card. It said, Labyrinthian. Stubborn grass and roots stand in the stiff Arctic climb, refusing to yield. Ahead of you stands the entrance to the Labyrinthian, testing grounds of the Archmagus Shalador. Within its twisted paths lies the second piece of the Staff of Chaos. I actually quite enjoyed my time in the Labyrinthian. I thought the way that it was laid out and the story that it told was quite fascinating. Upon entering, you're faced with 3 gates. The game tells you to go down the center one. More messages display as they help to set up the story of Canon the Elder and Mogris the Dim, 2 brothers who sought their fortune in the Labyrinthian, but instead met their untimely fates. The end of this tunnel holds a locked door. The displayed message mentions that Mogris the Dim holds the key for it. In order to get to Mogris, I need to venture beyond door number 1. Door number 1 ends up leading to the 2nd floor. Luckily, it doesn't take a very long time to get to. Most of the enemies encountered here are spiders. While they're not fearsome foes, they do have a rather annoying ability to paralyze. It just adds a lot more time to each individual fight. Descending to the domain of Mogris, the hallways and tunnels are quite expansive and confusing. There are now dark pits and raised walkways that need to be used in order to reach the desired room. Creatures of all types could be found down here. Wolves, ghouls, wraiths, hellhounds, you name it. The name of the game here is to try and get to the northeastern chamber. Inside of it, there will be 2 cells. The northernmost cell contains the wraith of Mogris. Approaching it, he says, "I am Brother Mogris, the shade of this hall, cursed to its lengths from beginning to end. Find me the answer, and a door will I call. Fail me but once, and your heart I will rend. More beautiful than the face of your god, yet more wicked than a demon's forked tongue. Dead men eat it all the time, live men who eat it die slow." For some reason, my mind jumped to dirt, but that doesn't really make sense for the first half of the riddle. The correct answer, though, is nothing. Mogris accepts it and grants me access to the cell next to his. Inside of it is a diamond key. Returning to the middle cell in the first level, I unlocked a metal door and gained passage. However, I was quickly stopped by yet another blocked pathway. This time, surprise surprise, I was instructed to head down door number 2 in search of Canaan's Wraith. The way down from this side also didn't take a very long time to get to. Interestingly, the passages from both door 1 and door 2 lead down to the same level, they're just divided by a barrier. This makes it so you can't reach either side without going through their respective area. Similar to Mogris' domain, I started off in the central portion of the level, except this time it was on the eastern side. Canaan's cell is in the southwestern corner. Battling through more of the same monsters and hopping in between raised platforms and dark tunnels, I soon arrived at the chamber. Again, like Mogris' area, Canaan's Wraith was locked behind a cell. He said that I had to correctly answer the riddle, or I'd be stuck here with him for eternity. The question goes as follows. 2 bodies have I, though both joined in one. The more still I stand, the quicker I run. My mind immediately went to either time or a clock. I wasn't far off though, as the correct answer was an hourglass. The neighboring cell opened up and I managed to snag the sapphire key. Hauling it back to the first level and down the central tunnel, I unlocked the second metal door. Twisting around a few corners, I landed on the third and final door. This time though, instead of a key, I just had to answer one more riddle. The question goes, what force and strength cannot get through, I with a gentle touch can do. And many in these twisted halls would stand were I not as a friend at hand. Honestly, for this one I had no clue. I was thinking maybe some form of magic, but the correct answer ended up being key. Beyond the final metal door, I battled against a wraith and successfully retrieved the second piece of the Staff of Chaos. Luckily, from here, leaving the Labyrinthian is pretty simple, and I was able to quickly make my way back to Winterhold. Resting outside of the city limits, I was visited once more by Jagar Tharn.
You have survived the tests most dire. Continue along this path, however, and you will face such things as to make your very heart freeze. I will save you the ordeal for my servants approach you even now. From your mangled corpse, I will take what is mine.
After a brief threat from the Imperial Wizard, 2 rogues appear from the darkness and try to get the better of me. Fortunately, I'm well equipped to handle them, and I can continue to get a full night's rest.
I would congratulate you on retrieving the second piece of the Staff of Chaos, but dire portents have I seen. The third piece of the staff lies somewhere in the Elden Grove, ancient home of the elves. The Elden Grove is said to be the birthplace of the sacred first tree, that which gave life to all the forests on the continent of Tamriel. Its location has been a closely guarded secret, so guarded in fact that many believe that even the elves have forgotten its true location. Considering that there are only 3 provinces that hold any of the elfin people, your search should not be too difficult. Find the Elden Grove and recover the third piece of the staff. I wish you well on your quest.
Rhea Silmain directs me to the third fragment of the staff. She lays out 2 massive hints as to where it could be. Number 1 is that it's either in Valenwood, Somerset Isle, or Morrowind, the homes of the elves. Number 2 is that it's in a heavily forested area, where nature is held most sacred. Falsely taking a chance on the Somerset Isle, I asked around amongst the locals, and they insisted that it was in the wilderness of Valenwood. Picking the city of Falinesti at random and traveling over, I inquired further with the locals. They all pointed me in the direction of Eldenroot. It's pretty on the nose with its name and the Elden Grove. Finally, the people of Eldenroot told me that the queen of the city likely knows more. So, paying a visit to the royal palace, I had a little chat with Queen Ulandra. You can probably guess how it went. She explains that the grove is a sacred place to the Bosmer. In exchange for its location, Ulandra needs a favor. Illyrion, one of the city's lore masters, has been finding bodies of Eldenroot citizens sapped dry. They essentially become mere shells and need to be put down. 10 rangers left to find out what's been going on. Months later, their severed heads were delivered back to the city. It was seen as a message from someone named Selene, the high priestess of Shegrath, the god of spiders. She insists on threatening the entire province and its people if its leadership isn't handed over to her. Ulandra marks Selene's web, the high priestess's domain, on my map and asks me to return with her life force, a great jewel that's known as her heart. This will keep the god of spiders at bay. Accepting the deal, I readied myself and made way for Selene's web. The bulk of the enemies faced here are of course spiders. Similar to what I had to deal with in the Labyrinthian, the hallways are crawling with arachnids. Of course, it also has its fair share of other creatures: wolves, ghouls, wraiths, and the like. The first zone had me venturing from the northeast corner of the level to the central western area. Arriving at a metal door, the game displays a message saying that it's secured by a golden lock. Getting the hint, I began searching for the golden key. The key isn't actually too far from the entranceway. Meandering through the tight tunnels and walkways, I soon landed on a large open chamber that contained a body of water. Similar to Stone Keep, the key was placed on one of the platforms in the middle of the room. Each platform had its fair share of spiders, so I had my work cut out for me. On the northwesternmost island, the golden key was simply lying on the ground. Collecting it, I returned to the door and made my way into the second level of Selene's web. While the second level is larger and contains more than a few twisting tunnels, the pathway to get to the jewel is rather straightforward. Just south of the doorway, there's a long corridor that runs east to west. There's also a walkway that runs north to south, essentially dividing the level into quadrants. At its center is a door that's secured by a jewel-studded lock. The key for the lock is in the fourth quadrant. Traveling east and entering the bottom right sector, there are a series of rooms that I had to navigate through. Each room presented some sort of enemy that needed to be defeated. The lengthy part here though was picking which doorway to go through. Once I hit the final chamber, I leapt into an enclosed space within its center. There, I located the diamond key and was ready for the final part of the dungeon. Surrounding the room were wraiths and barbarians. While trying to leave, they gave me quite a lot of trouble. They were beating me up over and over until finally I was able to stand my ground. Returning to the central part of the zone and unlocking the door, I located the Heart of Selene, a massive jewel, and proceeded to exit the dungeon. I'll admit, I know that the bulk of this game is dungeon crawling, but the first dungeon for each quest has been quite lackluster. I found myself not really interested in them, which isn't good because they're so time consuming and make up half of the main quest. They use a combination of basic mechanics and a large layout. This just creates a time-consuming run and gun meets slasher type of scenario, which is struggling to capture my attention. In any case, back to the matter at hand, I returned to Queen Ulandra. She expressed her gratitude and marked the Elden Grove on my map. Readying myself, I fast traveled over and was met with this dungeon's title card. Elden Grove, the small overgrown entrance to the Elden Grove stands before you, guarding secrets forgotten for ages. Somewhere within its misty corridors lies the third piece of the Staff of Chaos. The Elden Grove is different from the previous dungeons. The first zone takes place outside, which is actually something I really enjoyed. It takes away from that tight, dark, claustrophobic feeling I got in the other ones. That being said though, it operates in the exact same way. Monsters and undead lurk at every corner, waiting for me to make a wrong turn. Interestingly, I felt as though the Elden Grove dungeon was the fastest one since Stone Keep. However, I was tightly following a third-party map which made navigation so much easier. The entrance of the first level is in the central west portion of the map. Heading south for a bit, then cutting east, I veered north for a brief distance, hit a sharp U-turn, and then landed at the next door. The second zone, while back to the normal enclosed underground adventure, was exceptionally straightforward. Walking west, I ended up at a body of water. Here, I was introduced to the boating mechanic. Hopping in, I was able to travel through the lakes and channels at a breakneck pace. Steering the boat north, I was able to avoid almost all enemy interactions. The boat fit perfectly under most platforms, and I made sure to steer clear of any islands or inlets that were sticking out. In the northwestern region of the zone, there was a larger island which I needed to dock at. Avoiding the wraiths and their fireballs, I interacted with the nearby door. I was then presented with the first riddle for this dungeon. It went, "My second is performed by my first, and it is thought a thief by the marks of my hole might be caught. Who am I?" Thinking the answer was footstep, that ended up being correct, and I was allowed passage inside of the room. Here, there were two wraiths that didn't take long to defeat. Along with those was, of course, the third piece of the Staff of Chaos. Attempting to leave the second zone, I was met with one more riddle as the way out of here was blocked. It went, "Elvish mithril and Argonian silver, crumble I can. But first, I improve all created by man. I devour all things, bird and beast, serfs and kings. Though my pace is even, men curse my speed, wishing I were lazier in their hour of need. I can creep and crawl, or rush, even fly. I am all thou hast. Tell me, who am I?" This one, I knew for sure that the answer was time. Escaping the second level, the rest of the way out of the Elden Grove was simple enough. Fast traveling back to Eldenroot, I made my way into an inn and rested for the night.
You have done well. I had thought you lost to me. The third piece of the staff is yours. Rumors have been whispered about in the Empire. I think Tharn senses that the pieces come together. You must take care to not be discovered by him. Your death would be most unpleasant. I have divined the location of the fourth piece of the staff. It lies in the Halls of Colossus, a structure built to honor a race of giants, though none have been seen in the land for ages. It is said that the Halls of Colossus sat perched on a cliff overlooking the Great Divide, which is along the southern edge of Tamriel. Perhaps the halls are near that coastline. I only wish I could offer you more. Fare thee well, my friend, and find this place for the sake of our loved ones.
At this point, even Rhea Silmain knows that I'm putting a lot of attention on myself. Jagar Tharn knows what I'm up to, but the more pieces of the staff I collect, the greater a threat I pose to the Battle Mage's plan. Speaking of which, after exiting the city, I set up camp, anticipating another visit from the fake Emperor.
Why do you choose to align against me, when it is obvious that I will destroy you? Even as each piece of the staff comes into your possession, it becomes easier to find. And I have done just that. Face my creatures if you dare! I am through toying with you!
Again, it's just more threats and more lackeys being sent over to me. However, who knows how far it'll go, and what manner of creature he'll send after me next. In any case, there are 5 more pieces of the staff that need to be collected, and time's ticking.